welcome to ReWild Your Business. I'm your host, Jill Mokes. Thank you so much for joining me again. And I am so excited to bring to you another conversation with an uncompromising woman. And this week I'm talking to Maria Cussell. Maria is a coach who works with people who've had a successful career in corporate and now in their kind of 40s and 50s, they're really looking ahead to their next chapter. And they're feeling like, I can't keep doing all of this. Something's got to change. And that's where Maria comes in to work with those people and to really help them regain a sense of purpose or meaning and leave a legacy of some kind. Maria is going to share with us her own journey along that path herself. Like I always say, we end up being the coach that we needed at some point, and that's certainly true for Maria. She has a really fascinating story, and I am very excited to be sharing it with you. So let's dive into the episode. The ReWild Your Business podcast is sponsored by the Coaching Business Academy. The truth is, you trained to be a coach, not a marketer, not a salesperson, a coach. And the problem is, nobody taught you the business bit. So you're left guessing at the how to actually get clients part. The Coaching Business Academy is a 12-week program that fills that gap. It's practical strategy around positioning, offer creation, pricing, marketing, and client enrollment. Together with the inner mindset work, because trust me, you need both. Our summer cohort starts on the 4th of August. If you want to find out more, head to jillmokes.com/academy, where you can get all of the details. Hey, Maria. Hi. How are you?
Good, thank you, Jill. And you?
I am good. I've got that full moon energy today. We're recording on full moon, so I've got full moon energy. Who knows where this will go? I don't know. Oh, thank you so much for joining me. I've been really looking forward to this conversation because you and I have spoken, and you know that I am intrigued by your story. And I love how real you keep it. I love the fact that you and I are quite similar in that we both believe in sharing the warts and all versions of everything, not the beautifully perfected version that we see out there and bores us stiff. So thanks for coming on and being part of this series of my conversations with uncompromising women like yourself. I'd love if we could start off by you kind of introducing yourself a little bit and just give us a bit of background to who you are and what you do at the moment.
Just writing down the uncompromising woman, because I am, and I hadn't realised. So thank you.
Oh, so don't you love when we start a conversation with an insight like that?
Yeah.
You are an absolutely uncompromising woman. Any woman who does what you've done, and I think I put myself in this category as well. Like, we just don't compromise on the things we want and the path we want to tread. So, yeah.
But I used to. That's what really strikes home. So I went through the traditional go to university, do a degree, and in my generation, we were lucky enough that led automatically into a job. You didn't have to think. I ended up at Barclays Bank and thought to myself, there's lots of interesting things here. I'll move on when I don't look round and see something I would love to do. And I was lucky that it took over 25 years to reach that stage. And I did everything the way things were meant to be. I climbed the corporate ladder. And the real turning point for me came when I was working for a boss. I was chief of staff to the risk director in Barclays Africa, based in Joburg. I went there for 2 years and stayed for 11 because I loved Africa. And he said to me, I would like you to coach and develop our in-country talent, because we can't be dependent on expats, and I think you'd be good at it. Lovely foresight, eh? Really, just
isn't that amazing?
Door-opening. So I started doing what I thought was coaching. It was really just telling everyone really nicely what they needed to do.
But we have so much in common because honestly, when I first started calling myself a coach, I was just all about, just do this thing,
Yeah.
how I'm telling you to do it. Yeah.
But I remember, because I loved it so much and I was good at it, I signed up for some training. So I studied at Centre for Coaching, University of Cape Town. And there was an initial 2-day course. And on day one was what coaching actually was. And my reaction was, thank God for that. I don't have to have the answers.
No, it's such a relief when we realize, that's not our job.
Yeah. And I would love to say that I found my vocation. I was really good at it. I did a 2-year training course. I qualified and drifted off into the sunset. But I didn't. Barclays bought a bank in South Africa. I was part of the risk integration team. I led the risk work stream. Looking back, it's so easy when you look back, you see patterns and things. I was rubbish at getting all the synergies and cutting costs and slashing out headcount. That's just not in my skill set. But I was one of the few that built really strong relationships with the senior execs at the bank that we bought.
Yeah.
And I was working for a boss who was all about the numbers. And I remember we had a performance review and I got whatever the one in the middle was because I wasn't hard-nosed enough and I wasn't doing this and I wasn't doing that. I remember saying to him, Robert, are you always looking for the negatives in everyone, or is it just me that brings it out in you?
Come on now, Robert.
Every now and then, back then, it would open and things would come out without asking my brain's permission. And he was quite taken aback. And we had a good conversation from there. And I talked about coaching and he said, yes, I can see you doing that. And it took forever to move across. I went from there to working in a really toxic environment, still in the bank. I was actually told, you're not paid to coach and develop talent. And it just looked unsupportive. But I knew what I wanted to do. I remember I had 2 meetings back to back. One was with audit and one was with a coaching client, or not a client, an internal I was coaching. And I walked out of the audit meeting with my shoulders down and head hanging. No offense to any auditors, but it wasn't my thing.
It wasn't for you.
Coaching session, head high, shoulders back. So I knew
the clues are always in our body, aren't they? Isn't that interesting? The clues are always there,
but the timing never is. So I was ready. I'm ready. I know where I'm going. Let's make a change. But nothing came. I was stuck doing work that I didn't enjoy, building fabulous relationships with the in-country businesses.
Yeah.
Despised by my bosses, absolutely despised and bullied, low-scale bullying, you know?
So toxic.
Very toxic. And you start to doubt who you are. But I kept going. I have a very strong faith. I knew I was there for a reason, and that was the only thing that kept me going. And to cut
Tell me more about that. Sorry to interrupt you there. I'm interested in that. Tell me about, you start to question who you are.
Because who I wasn't valued. So you start to tell yourself, and I see this in a lot of my clients, when our real strengths, our spikes, come so naturally to us, we think everyone can do them. And so we don't value them. And I was doing a job where they weren't valued. So what was valued in my job was getting audit findings closed on time with no problems. Forget it that we had a business in Angola. And I was always collected from the airport. I was always given what I asked for. I was always taken out for dinners. Nobody else from the office was. That wasn't valued. Building relationship wasn't valued. Closing audit findings was. So then you start to say, oh, what I do. A friend of mine summed it up. He said, he introduced me to his son and said, this is Maria. She has the ability to connect with anybody, any place, any time. He said when other people in the bank in Africa were making strategies to break down barriers, Maria just went straight through them and built the connection.
Oh, Maria, gosh, what a wonderful little testimony of what you were doing and your approach.
Was lovely.
I find it so amazing. And I suppose this is with hindsight of having not worked in corporate for a long time now, but just that disconnect in corporate between the metrics, the numbers,
Yes.
the boxes that have to be ticked.
Yeah.
The disconnect between those things and the relationships is absolutely wild to me.
Well, it helped me to, now I can look back and help me understand. Before I went to Africa, I was a relationship director dealing with some of the largest corporates globally, actually. And they loved me because I wanted to understand, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you deal with... So the relationship was like that. But I was not good at selling them insurance and cross-selling life cover. I had no interest in that. Ironically, now I think my skills would be valued because of all the scandals there have been about hitting sales targets. My
Sure, you're right.
approach was right. But looking back on it, I think, yeah, my clients loved me, but I didn't hit the numbers.
And the danger, I think, with that, to your point of where you start to question yourself, the danger with that, isn't it, is that you start to make yourself wrong.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. You start questioning.
Or you start to undervalue what you are good at.
Right. Yes, exactly.
All I could do was build relationships with the people in country who adored me. And I was actually told by my boss, because we had a 360 feedback, and I was told, oh, well, they clearly don't know what good looks like. And so this wasn't just me doubting myself. This was other people coming in as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it took about 3 or 4 years. And decided it wanted to train internal coaches. I had stayed connected with my University of Cape Town. I joined their faculty the day after I graduated. And they were hired to train internal coaches for Barclays in Africa. And so
Got it. Right.
they wanted to use me. So I was submitting unpaid holiday request so that I could work for the University of Cape Town teaching people in my bank how to coach. And someone in HR, thank goodness, said, this is silly. We need to create a role.
Wow, that's a smart person. Okay, good. That's reassuring.
So my next role was the head of coaching and mentoring for Barclays Africa across 14 countries in 3 languages. And it was like I had died and gone to heaven. It really was. And as an insight as to how, when you are doing the right role for you, the need for external validation is much, much lower.
Oh, what a good point. That is so true. Tell me more on that.
So I remember having a performance review, and my boss was lovely and was just talking. And I said, just tell me what your review is.
Yeah.
And it was the top review. And I thought, yeah, I agree. There was no arrogance in it. I knew I was using my skills, and I was doing everything to the very best of my ability.
Right.
And I didn't need the validation. And so,
interestingly, though, I wonder what if you hadn't have got that top review. Do you think that there would still have been less impact from that on you because you had that really internal self-validation?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so I thought, I had everything sorted, life sorted.
Yeah, we're done. I'm done. Carry on like this, please. And of course, life is always so accommodating like that.
Yeah. The one thing that has always frustrated me is the ups and downs, and it's a lifelong journey for me. Both accepting the downs won't last forever and accepting the highs won't last forever.
Yeah.
Barclays centralised everything back into the UK. And my role was one of the ones that went, we want this all together. They formed a central team to design a leadership development curriculum, asked me to come back. within the space of a year, I moved back, my kids moved back, my dog moved back, my cat moved back. All of my husband's possessions moved back. My husband stayed. And
And did you leave him behind by accident, or was that his choice?
he was coming. He came out on the Barclays pay, right? And then said, right,
Yeah.
I'll go back to sort a few things out. I think with hindsight, it made him realize living on his own that he didn't want to be married anymore.
Right.
I have
Gosh, Maria, what a massive additional trauma, stress. Like, good Lord, when you've just moved across the planet.
yeah, was I mean, I
And
ended
then,
with pneummonia, unsurprisingly, that
oh,
he always tells us. So we have that going on in the background, and then Barclays went through, the job was ridiculous. I mean, they did not need me, and it was so political. And they, thankfully, as a shareholder, as I was at the time, they decided to make lots of redundancies to the team. I was one of the ones that was put up for redundancy, or my role was. And I remember that my boss's boss, who was terribly, terribly polite, saying, I understand you have personal challenges as well. I'm very sorry this is coming along. And I said, well, change the job, change the marital status. You may as well do it all at the same time.
might as well go all in. So that's what you said publicly to him. What were you feeling inside?
Yeah, leaving Barclays, I could not look around and see another job I wanted to do. And I believe once you have done your dream job, it's really hard for me to go back. I could not do that anymore.
Because that's compromising, right?
And I remember when I was made the move across into the coaching area, a friend of mine said, could you not carry on doing what you're doing and do coaching as a hobby? And I said, I could do that and I'd be okay at what I'm doing. But when I coach, I fly, and it goes against everything I believe not to do that. So
When I coach, I fly is beautiful. That is gorgeous. I've never heard anyone say that. And I so relate to that. When I coach, I fly.
Yeah.
It does feel like that.
And so looking back, I guess it must have been traumatic. The breakdown of the marriage really was traumatic. I mean, it has
Right.
sure. Daughter today, because my children come to me with advice on relationships, and I say I'm not the person to give advice because mine fed. So I was talking to her about how our partners quite often frustrate us, and it's hard to know what to compromise, what not to. And I said, I have to say that for every day I was with your father, he never frustrated me. Never, ever. I was totally besotted with him from the day I met him until, and then I hesitated and I said, until now, actually. But I did say, I think I think it's the benefit of him being 5,500 miles away. I've still got this.
You can do no wrong now.
I highly recommend it if you're going to get divorced.
Yeah, absolutely.
Barclays stuff felt like it was what I had wanted to do for such a long time. And here they were saying, we will pay you your full amount for the next 3 months, and then we'll give you a big redundancy package because you've been with us for such a long time. So it felt absolutely right for me to move on. And because I'd been working in HR, I had some really good contacts.
Right.
And so I started coaching through associates, and was, with hindsight, was very, very successful with very little. Listen to me, I'm doing it again, doing myself down. I almost said very little effort other than building relationships.
And of course, we know that that is the work.
Yes.
And actually, for everyone listening, honestly, I think that if we could say what sums up what will make a successful coach, as opposed to someone who will always struggle, it is the people that prioritize the relationships above everything else.
Yes.
Everything else. That is the number one most important thing. So yeah, I agree. You were about to almost frame that as an aside almost. Well, I'm good at that, but actually that is everything. Mm.
But what strikes me as really interesting, I can look back and I can see several phases in my life where I think, okay, I've cracked it. I've got the answer, capital T, capital A. And there's something in my approach to life that I like things settled and ordered. On my coaching studies, we were given, I guess we'd call them affirmations, questions they really were for the year to reflect on. And one of mine was, because I like everything settled, one of my questions was, how can I keep turning my life upside down? And
I love that question.
I look back and the answer is, I don't have to. God, the universe, call it what you will, every now and then will go and turn everything upside down. And that's how I keep learning and growing. And that's one of my core values. And it's interesting, as I'm saying this, the questions come, so why do you complain when it happens? And the answer is because it takes too damn long to get settled again. It's that
Okay. So there's an acceptance that periodically the universe is going to rip the rug out. It always does.
Yeah.
Show me one person to whom that has never happened, and I'll be freaking amazed. And so we know to expect that at some point that kind of thing will happen. We also know that we can navigate it. You've done it several times. We can navigate it. We can come out the other side. We can still be uncompromising about what we will and won't say yes to. So why does it knock us for six when it happens? And you just made a really good point. It's because it takes so long to get that settled feeling back again. And that settled feeling is our equilibrium, isn't it? I suppose it's our North Star of safety, really.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, playing that back, it's really interesting because we're acting as though it's external and it's internal. And
It's absolutely the way we react to the change, to the rug being pulled, is completely and utterly within our control and inside us.
And it's interesting. I used to think I must be really slow on the uptake because I have to keep learning the same lessons. I used to think that, we had some faults, some weaknesses, and we worked on them and we moved on to far more interesting ones later. I came to the very sorry realization that we actually have life lessons and it's nothing to do with faults and weaknesses. There are certain things that I believe we are here to learn. And
I believe that too.
And for me, I don't think we ever really understand what it is until later, looking back. But for me, there is definitely something around patience. There is something around faith rather than fear. And there is something about finding security, not from external stability, but from something internal. And I think maybe this is why I'm able to connect so well with the people I'm working with now, who are people facing the same sort of crossroads in their life. I had a session with a client yesterday, and as they were explaining what was going on, I was thinking, I'm sure you have this as well, tick, tick, tick.
Absolutely.
It's easy to say, we have all we need inside ourselves. It's just a question of getting still. If you don't know how you are going to pay the mortgage next month, it is hard to settle down and be still and be trust. And yet that's the way we grow. And it's a real bummer. I really wish we grew from everything being nice and settled, but it doesn't seem to be that way.
It doesn't, does it? And I totally agree with you. And I remember having that conversation with a client once around where growth comes from, around, what the challenges do for us. And she said to me, but I don't think I want to grow.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such an interesting reaction, isn't it? And I'm really curious to what your response to that would be. Why do we as humans, why is it so innate within us to want growth, to want that personal growth? Because I think most people desire that in their life. Most people desire to grow as a being and to explore and experiment with what is possible for them. I think most of us have that inside us, but maybe not everyone.
No. And maybe it is. I have no doubt it's one of my purposes, intents, call it what you will, in this life. And it's not for other people. It wasn't for my ex. It wasn't that same. He wasn't stagnant or anything. He was energized by other things. I remember when I got the information on the coaching course, dancing around the kitchen as I read it out. And he looked at me and he said, "It sounds like absolute hell on earth to me, but it's clearly doing something for you. So go and sign up." And yeah, maybe it's we have different views of what constitutes growth. I don't know.
So to us, as what I'm, like I said, I can class us as uncompromising women.
Yeah.
I think it's tied up with this.
Yeah.
It is tied up with, I am not willing to compromise on my own growth.
Yeah.
And I know my growth doesn't lie in that direction.
Yeah.
It lies in that direction. Or maybe I don't know which direction it lies in, but I'm damn well going to find out, because that growth is so important to me.
I tell you about a dream I had very short after I split up with my ex. And it was, I met him, I bumped into him and he was sat on a park bench and he said, "Come and sit next to me." And I said, "I can't, there's no room." So God lacks all subtlety when dealing with me, but my real growth could not have taken place in that marriage. So heartbreak broke though I was. I've grown so much now, I wouldn't fit back in the confines.
So that growth was so important to you that it actually spoke to you louder than the grief of the loss of the relationship.
Yeah.
So sorry.
I guess that is part of the process when you are faced with any crossroads, crisis, change, whatever it is. It is made easier if you know what really matters to you. And can go beneath the surface. So I talked about, if you need to pay the mortgage next month, there's a real issue. And it is. And yet, how many people will say, "I can't change anything because of finances." And okay, what do you mean? What's your bare minimum that you need? What else are the alternatives? It's being able to lift our heads up and see possibilities and have the courage to make a leap.
I think you're so right. And I also think that when we think about those core values, for me, it's about, okay, because you value that thing, whatever that is for you, it might be exploration, it might be growth. Because that's a core value for you, what does that translate into in terms of how you show up in your life, in terms of how you make a decision?
Yes.
So are you using that value so that when you have a decision to make, you understand what that full body yes feels like and what the full body no feels like, because you're doing it from a values informed place, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
And it sounds to me, so you shared like this story of what brought you to coaching, really, which was part fortuitous opportunity really early on of someone so insightful saying, "Yeah, I think you'd be really good at this thing. Gosh, thanks to that person." And then obviously coming to that threshold moment where you said goodbye to South Africa, to your husband, to the company that you'd worked for all of those years. I mean, just one of those things would have been huge. All three of those things coming around the same time, I mean, talk about life-changing.
Yeah.
So what happened then in terms of bringing you to the work that you do now? How did you rise up from all of that uncertainty. As someone who, as you said, you value stability and kind of settledness, I think you said. How did you do that?
So there's a couple of things. One thing is to be absolutely honest. It didn't happen immediately. It took me, looking back, it took me a year and a half, really.
Yeah.
Living on the money that I got from my redundancy, re-establishing myself and how I wanted to be. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, because it's not always a quick switch and everything's perfect. It was a battle.
I really appreciate you being honest about that, because I do think that it's almost like we hear this. I say it all the time, follow what lights you up. But I don't mean just follow what's lights you up and everything will be absolutely fine. Everything will just drop into place. Do what you love. It's never that simple. And it does take time and intention and effort. So, yeah, thank you for acknowledging that.
And leading on from that, the other thing that really helped me was the support network I had. So friends and colleagues, particularly women. My male friends were a bit terrified by emotions, divorce. Oh my God, where can we go? I'm not generalizing. It's just the ones that I had in my life, whereas the women came through. And there was one former colleague who said to me in that first year, exactly to your point, take every piece of work you are offered, because it builds up a cushion of income and it helps you decide what it is you don't want to do and do want to do. And she said after a year of
such good advice.
right?
Yes.
And her second piece was just as good. After a year, decide what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Because if you're not doing work you love with people you respect, you may as well have stayed at Barclays.
Wow. Such wise advice. I love that thing. There's something about this year. Give that in-between time a year to figure things out.
Yeah.
And so many of us, you mentioned before about patience, so many of us don't want that. We live in such a fast-paced world. We live in a world where you can order something on Amazon and it arrives practically that evening. We're not good at waiting for things anymore. We're not good at allowing things to naturally surface. We want to force everything.
And I think there is an element of feeling we're not doing it right, that it should, otherwise I'm doing it wrong. And there's a shame and an embarrassment around that. It's one
agree.
thing. And then I used the net. I got all my work through networks. I had, I think, about 5 or 6 different associations, and that's how the business built up. And it's been that way. So I've been in business for about 12 years now. And in the last couple of years, and this sort of speaks to the point we were saying earlier about the highs and the lows and world turned upside down. In the last couple of years, I've got just 2 associations and their work has almost completely dried up. Just gone. And so the emphasis...
And that happens sometimes, right?
And I had foreseen it and yet had still struggled to build up my own client base. So that's what I have been doing. Because my ultimate aim is I want to do the work I do, which is almost entirely remote. I want to move to Sweden to be with my daughter and granddaughter and do this work from Sweden. And so that will be almost entirely my own client base. So I can see the path, I can see the steps, and I'm at the stage of thinking, okay, I'm ready. You can send it now. What are you waiting for? Here's the plan.
I'm ready. Pass me those clients.
So that impatience thing has come back.
So thinking about that, I think that's so interesting. And I love that self-awareness of, this is another one of those times. But the difference is now that you do have that self-awareness of, actually, I know I will navigate this. I've set my intention. I will be moving to Sweden and my work will be there. And really, it's just how many hundreds, if not thousands of baby steps do I need to take before I get on that plane?
Yes. Yeah.
Because that is really it. Everything we do and everything we make possible for ourselves and bring to life in our lives is just a culmination of the baby steps we took before it.
And it's a very fine balance, I think, for me and for my clients, of having plan, a goal, a vision, so fundamental, and being able to hold it lightly and not grasp and force and push.
Mm,
And I
mm.
think that's a life's lesson.
I think that's absolutely a life's lesson. I think you're so right. And especially that forcing. The work, that for me is something I see come up over and over again, that we will set this intention, we have this vision that is so real. If we've really put the work in to getting to know what we want from our life, from our
Yes.
work,
Yeah.
we can get so crystal clear on that vision. And then it's quite counterintuitive to be told, now loosen your grip on it a little bit. And I love what you said about holding it gently. How can I hold it gently so that I can make aligned decisions that aren't always the obvious ones?
Yeah. There's I read a lot of Tosha Silver's books. I don't know if you've come across her. She's
I've heard of her, but I haven't read any of her books.
they're
They're
well,
good. Do we need to link to them in the show notes?
yeah, let's do that, because one of the things that she said, one of her beefs about manifestation is you can manifest a perfect marriage, a seven-figure income, a this and a that. But there's also what Hinduism, what she calls your dharma, your purpose. And
Yes.
if the purpose that you have for this life is not to be mega rich, it's not to be this or that, you can manifest as much as you like. So there's a principle called aparigraha, which is surrender, non-attachment of
Non-attachment. Yeah.
this is what I want for my life, but I'm willing to let it go in service of what I actually need.
There's something about trust there, isn't there? There's something about trust. So I would call it, the calling of your soul. I think there is something around trusting that,
Mm.
um, and understanding what is aligned with that for you and what isn't. And that's where, again, we're coming back to that uncompromising thing, because there are going to be elements of that vision that really are so core and fundamental to the calling of your soul that you're never going to be willing to compromise on those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And then going to be the other things that actually you can loosen.
Yeah.
You can really allow to be more fluid, and you can allow life to surprise you.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think that's something that we don't always give permission to. We almost want to put a ban on life surprising us.
Yeah.
And I think really, if we can be open to allowing life to surprise us in the how,
Yeah. Yeah.
it can
And
be
maybe
so effective.
that's it. Maybe it is the how. So the move to Sweden is about closeness to family. So I have to try to plan to move my son to Sweden as well. Still working on that. But maybe if I'm looking, what am I uncompromising on? I am uncompromising on wanting to spend the rest of my life in close connection with my children.
And that will never change. You will never compromise on that desire.
And what country that's in is irrelevant. And I will also never compromise on using the gifts that I've been given to help other people through my coaching. That I can't not do it. I remember my daughter.
It lets you fly.
Yeah, my daughter once said of you when she was a teenager, have you ever thought that sometimes I want a mother and not a coach? And I said, have you ever thought that the reason I'm a coach might be because I'm naturally like this? I can't not
Just
do.
who I am.
Yeah.
I think most coaches that I work with would say the same. Coaching isn't something that I just choose to do. It's who I am. And I think, those of us that have committed to following that and making that our life's work are so fortunate that we get to have that level of energetic alignment with who we are in our work. And I guess that brings us on to the work that you do now, because like nearly every coach that I ever speak to, we always become the coach that we once needed. You are now the coach that you would have really benefited from when you were probably going through that. Okay, I know what I want to do. I don't know how to make it happen.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about the work that you do now, who you work with.
Yeah. So I'm working with leaders in corporate who've had successful careers, who are now in their 40s and 50s and are looking ahead and thinking, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
Something has to change. So they use words like, I'm not feeling fulfilled. I want to have more of a sense of purpose. I want to leave a legacy. I had someone who said, I'm just not engaged in this work and haven't been for 4 or 5 years. And so I work with them one-on-one over a 6 month period. And the aim is that they get clarity on who they are without the shoulds, the titles, and all that we've been talking about, really. What
Yeah.
are the values
Yeah.
really matters to them? And then what are their options? So the all of coaching really does this, of helping people to step back and look and see their themes and their patterns, to tap into that, what the soul desires, to tap into their North Star, to start to build their own wisdom. And when
Mm.
I designed the program, I thought, and they will leave with a 12-month roadmap of where they're going. But I was working with someone who said, no, I want to be in a new role by the end of the 6 months. So that was absolutely clear. I worked with someone else who said, no, I've decided I'm taking a sabbatical, so I'm pressing pause. And I worked with someone else that said, no, I can't keep doing this. I'm going to resign. So although I have an overall structure, what I've learned is the programs are as individual as the people.
Absolutely. Isn't that so interesting? I think that we all, and I think it's right. I love that you have this mapped out framework, but I also love that flexibility of no, the client chooses the framework that serves them, don't they? Yeah.
And the big difference too, so up until now, I have worked more or less, I'd say 80% in corporates.
Mm.
And I have worked with lovely people, totally committed to the coaching. And when you're paying for it yourself and it's about your life and your decisions, things are really ratcheted up a notch in terms of commitment and buy-in and
Yes.
connection as well.
Right.
I'm finding it
Yeah.
very rewarding to do. And it's interesting how people come with the same surface level challenges, but when
Hmm.
you start to go beneath the surface, the reason they're struggling to move forward are as individual as the people themselves. And
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
the beauty of the work.
That really is the beauty of the work, isn't it? And I love that. I see so many sort of group things now. There's been an epidemic of group things, and I love group things. I have a group program myself. The Coach Your Business Academy is a group experience. But I think that there is something about that level of engagement on a one-to-one basis where it's you and that client and you are immersing yourself in their world. And I don't think there's anything like that.
Yeah.
That's transformational work. That is the deep transformational work,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I've tried 2 group programs, and each time I've ended up with one person in it. So I thought,
The universe is saying, one to one.
the hint, I would.
Yeah, absolutely. And can I just say though, if you're listening to that and you're someone that is wanting to create a group program, please take a leaf out of both my book and Maria's book, because I have also run a group program and had one person sign up for it in the past. And I'm sure you did the same. I gave that one person the most transformational coaching
Lovely.
experience.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it as a failure of any kind. I saw it as, well, you know what? That person really benefited from that. So I do think that, again, it's that the whole marketing industry that we're in now, it makes us scared to fail. And don't be scared to fail. If you want to do a group thing and you're not sure whether you're going to be able to fill the spaces on it and all of that kind of thing, do it anyway. If one person signs up, you just give them the best experience of their life. Yeah, and don't make it mean anything else.
It's a fine balance, isn't it? Because I've been reflecting on this. Don't be afraid to fail. And married to it is, don't give up too soon. Because
Agree. Totally agree.
so if I give an example, I've started a newsletter. I've done one before, and not had any. Lots of people signed up, but they never get in touch. I never hear anything. And so I think, well, that's a failure. But I think, but Maria, I think it's this long term. I think, if you're enjoying doing it, keep going, use it and
Oh
see.
my goodness. It's so true because you've got the relationship part nailed.
Yeah.
The long-term content marketing piece always takes longer than anyone thinks it's going to. Everyone thinks they're going to be able to start a newsletter, a podcast, a YouTube channel, an Instagram channel, whatever, and straight away get that engagement and feedback from it. And it doesn't work like that. When I started this podcast, ReWild Your Business, I would say for at least the first year, there was a handful. I could probably count on two hands the number of people that were listening in for a year. And the thing is, I love doing it, so I didn't give up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
some people would have looked at that and said, yeah, that's not working for you, Jill. You might as well abandon that. Try something else. Go on and try a YouTube channel. Try something different.
Yeah.
But I loved this medium, so I carried on doing it. And yeah, there's definitely something in that. It's don't be afraid to fail, but also don't give up too soon either.
Yeah.
I love that. Maria, thank you. This has been, I knew this would be a really interesting conversation, and it really has been. And I just want to thank you as well for being so open and just honest about the highs and the lows of what's going on, and not coming on and trying to present this perfect vision of someone who exited their corporate and then everything was wonderful. And, no, it is wonderful because you're a coach doing the work that makes you fly. But it's also freaking tough sometimes. Getting clients can be tough.
Yeah.
Doing the thing you love can be tough. So
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for sharing that. I want to finish with a question that I want to ask everyone on this series. What is something you'll never compromise on?
I can't do work that isn't fun for me. I read somewhere a long time ago, if it's not a hell yeah, it's a no. So and when I say fun, I don't mean it all has to be coaching. I was asked to run a workshop out in Colorado, and I didn't even know what the workshop was on, but that's a hell yeah.
That is a hell yes, because I know that's going to be fun.
Yeah, go there. So yeah, it's not a deliberate, I just can't. I just can't.
Absolutely. Maybe that's a better question. What can't you compromise on? I'm going to change that question because I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Before we sign off, where can someone who has been listening to this and thinking, do you know what? I really love the sound of this woman. She sounds like someone who's just going to get me.
Yes.
Where can they reach out and find you?
So I have a confession to make. I had a website with all the details and I hated maintaining it. The only thing I ever got from it was thousands of spam emails. So I've closed that down. The best way to contact me is through LinkedIn. So if I give you my LinkedIn profile, and I go on there regularly during the day. So that's the best way to reach me.
Brilliant. I'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Okay.
And if someone just can connect with you and just send you, they can send you a DM, can't they? And say, you know what, I heard you.
And I have an email address that is a public address as well. So we can pop that in the show notes too.
I'll put that in the show notes as well. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I will see you tonight for our full moon circle as an aside.
You will. I look forward to it.
Okay. Lovely. See you later.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.